Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Sam, are you with me, Matt? And there he is.
Yes.
Now, I know. Of course, I didn't recognize you, mate, because, you know, look at the beard, the hair, it's back. The beard's back.
I mean,
there he is.
Yeah, it's been a slow grow, shall we say?
A slow grow. Okay,
slow
mate.
grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying nothing.
Already in dangerous territory here, aren't we?
Yeah. John.
But yeah, no, I'm glad to have it back, actually. I miss having a beard, and it's been sort of half there in the last couple of episodes, sort of like stubbly. But the beard is starting to grow back properly now. I haven't got jobs for a little while where I need to be clean shaven or I need to have a specific kind of facial hair. I'm in rehearsals for the play. So yeah, the beard's making an appearance. And may I say, mate, have you by any chance, and I know you have actually, but I'm going to ask anyway, have you by any chance done a Manuel recently?
I have. Now, how on earth did you know that?
I don't know, mate. I can tell you it's definitely not got anything to do with the fact that your hair's getting darker with age.
Yeah, the old Manuel tint is in the hair, mate. Yeah, get rid of the grey. Out with the grey and in with Manuel. Yeah, we had a lovely gig middle of this week with Verona and Ed Wells, a past Drewling Samantics guest. We were at the lovely I beg your pardon?
Both
past guests, yes.
Yeah.
But we were in the Langhall Hotel. It's a beautiful, beautiful hotel up in Nottinghamshire, just outside Nottingham. So we had a lovely night. We stayed over and just spent a day relaxing on the way back. So it was really nice. So, but back, you know, into this weekend, back to the jungle. So yeah, so I've been busy.
Yeah. Amazing. But cheers to all that, mate.
Cheers, matey. Cheers.
We will get you back on the beer at some point. People do still.
You will, mate. You will. It's a very strange thing. You know, I drink. You know, I'm on the soft drinks, as it were. And I have found ever since I had my little dose of the unwelcome guest, my taste buds have slightly changed where it comes to coffee. And it seems I'm having to drink more expensive brands of coffee to get the taste. It's rather upsetting.
It's Does Verona watch? And not to cast aspersions, but has she been questioning your recent expenditure on coffee and you trying to justify it in a public forum? That's not
no, because my wife has been enjoying the spoils of the expensive coffee and drinking it as well. No, it's just a little. I don't know why I mentioned that, but a little thing. So
very nice. But what we won't do is mention the brands of coffee because neither have we a beer sponsor nor a coffee sponsor, although both would be most welcome.
Yet we are open to offers, are we not, Sam?
Well, it depends on the where you're going with this. Again, dangerous territory, mate.
Offers of sponsorship, mate. We are open to offers of sponsorship. Anybody wants us to sponsor us with beer, we will drink copious amounts on air as long as they want.
Exactly. Right, let's steer towards more normal features of a Drewling Samantics episode. Have you some news for us? Not personal news. I'm talking industry news.
Industry news. There's one or two little stories that have propped up, but as we quite often have to do, we play sad tribute to the late, great Mike Yarwood, who passed away a few days ago. I personally, because you're younger than me, but I personally grew up with his Saturday night shows back in the late 60s, early 70s. He was a Saturday night staple in our house, because not only because he was great, but I got a lot of inspiration because a lot of the stuff I used to do as a child, where people said, "Oh, we should go on the stage," was doing ridiculous impressions. And I think, like a lot of impressionists, they looked at. I'm not an impressionist, but a lot of impressionists have paid tribute this week and said he was their inspiration, because not only he always said he didn't necessarily sound alike, but what he used to do was try and get the physical mannerisms, and he used a lot of makeup and stuff like that because it was a sketch-based show, most of his stuff. But I mean, he could still do it with a pair of glasses and a wig, if he was on stage live. But it was watching, and I heard John Coleshaw and a couple of people interviewed saying that he was the daddy because he managed to bring political satire, and he did a lot of politicians, Harold Wilson. And apparently, Harold Wilson never said, as I said at the Brighton conference, but he said it after that. So he said Mike Yarwood gave a politician a catchphrase. But he said what he managed to do, even in the late 60s, early 70s, was bring political satire into, a 7:30, 8 o'clock popular Saturday night slot, and nobody ever knew. So people were laughing at something, and he made political comments and political satire, and nobody knew. I mean, he did some amazing. I mean, his impersonations were fantastic, and he will be a great loss because along with a recent loss, Michael Parkinson, they kind of shaped Saturday evening viewing, for a lot of people. But I was a big fan of Mike Yarwood, and in later life, he took retirement and lived happily, and passed away reasonably peacefully. So good old Mike Yarwood. Well, I raised my coffee.
Yeah, I raised my beer, and as you say, another very sad loss. And we have seen so. I guess you don't realise when you're surrounded by this world of entertainers and celebrity that we see on TV and hear on the radio, etc., that they have all come from somewhere as well. And the amount of tributes over the past week or so since Mike passed from big names. I mean, obviously you mentioned John Coleshaw, but so many different impressionists or comedians or entertainers have spoken out and said of their sadness for the loss and shared memories. And it's almost a small positive. Obviously, losing someone is never positive, but the amount of people that do come out, and as I said, it's only been a week or so, but so many tributes and whatever have come out to speak about it. And it's a celebration of life, isn't it? And we're lucky that we got to experience these people in life, but also that we can remember them when they have sadly gone, and to hear all these memories from others as well. So yes, a sad passing there, but we were lucky to have experienced his talents over the years. So as you say, certainly more for you in your sort of youth than me. But
yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well because it was of his humor was of a time, and it's amazing how, as you said, he inspired a lot of people. But it rubs up against a little story. National Television Awards the other week, and Lee Mack won an award, and he made an off-the-cuff remark, which nowadays you can say things. You could say things back in the 60s, 70s. You weren't, under the microscope. And Lee Mack made an off-the-cuff remark. It makes me laugh. It doesn't offend me. I don't think it offended a lot of people, but of course there are the offence police out there going, "Oh, I'm offended." Well, big deal. Piss off. Don't care. But I mean, Jill Scott, who took it in good part, she's a bigger woman than all the people complaining out there. He's going to make a remark. It's like the Spike Milligan years ago that he made that remark about Prince Charles, the then Prince Charles, now King Charles, who sent good wishes on his award, and he said, "Crawling little bastard." Now, he described King Charles, as a crawling little bastard. It was funny. Nobody took offence. Now, you can't get a bigger target than the future heir to the crown, now the king. And if anybody was nobody took offence. Or if they did, nobody took any notice. And I think, okay, there's an implicit remarks in there about, is it sexual remarks? Is it in the light of what was happening to the Spanish FIFA Federation, who is now gone? But I mean, it's all those things. Is that actually it's a joke, and it's a funny joke, and it's a joke made by someone who makes those jokes, and it's like, for goodness sake, lighten up. If Jill Scott had been offended and had demonstrated offence, Lee Mack, being the sort of comedian and the sort of man he is, would have gone, hands up, made a mistake, wrong. But what he's done is he's gone, no, I haven't made a mistake. I made a joke.
Yeah.
And there's all this sort of like, he's going to be cancelled now and all that lot. If Lee Mack gets cancelled, I'll be the first one to buy the most expensive ticket there is in the front row of his concert and screw anybody that's offended, because bollocks, we got to stop this.
And you may well have offended people there by saying you were going to screw them. But who knows? Yeah.
Well, who knows? But now Drew steps off his soapbox for today. Grumpy old man has his say.
Yeah, we've hit our grumpy quota. No problems. I mean, I completely agree, mate. We've said it a few times. Things have gone a bit mental. I think, and we're not going to get into this debate because we've done it before, and there'll be lots of different opinions. And genuinely, as much as it sounds like a gag, don't want to offend anyone. But at the same time, I think what sums it up at the moment is the issues tend to come from people being offended on behalf of other people.
Yeah. That's a very, very wise thing to say, Sam. Yeah.
I mean, look at the source, look at the target, and then really go, actually, do I have any right to go, that's offensive if it's not about me?
I mean, in this instance, just
each other. There are situations, but let's try.
I think Jill Scott can take it. Her standing has gone up immensely. Lee Max has gone up. He's got an award. Actually, at the end of the day, everyone's happy. Just enjoy the gag for what it was. It was a 30-second fleeting moment. It's gone.
Should we try and bring a bit more common sense back into life? I think maybe that's something that we've been lacking.
Maybe that is what we. Yeah, I think common sense.
Enough of grumpy old Drew and philosophical Sam, which is a lot harder to say after I've had a.
Take us in. Actually, I'm gonna have a little segue, and say that
it's rare that we have a segue.
It's rare that we have a segue. But talking of cancellations, there have been a few shows cancelled due to closures of theatres due to that wonderful, which I think is a great rack. We've been racked. What is it called? It's reinforced autoclave aerated concrete. There we are.
Right, and for anyone that's just fallen asleep, don't worry. We are still an entertainment podcast. We are still going to talk about the arts. It's just that this is an element of it. Yeah, it's an intriguing one, isn't it? And
it is.
I mean, we again, it's something that you go back 30, 40 years and everything was made out of asbestos and people didn't really care. And I know this is slightly off that, but yeah, I mean, everyone's safety is paramount. That is the most important thing. People's safety,
of course.
But is it just me, or does it come from nowhere? All of a sudden, like.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, because they made all these buildings, or they put all this stuff up 30 odd years ago, and it's got a 30 odd year lifespan. So somebody's probably sitting there somewhere with an alarm clock's gone bing, and so, oh Christ, we forgot about that. Bugger. Yeah. You better go and have a look at a few schools, hospitals, and public buildings, and go, you see that roof? Yeah, there. Ooh, ooh.
That was it. You did the intake of breath. Is this a builder's conspiracy? Is what they're sort of a bit of work? No.
Yeah.
Joking aside, yes, it is a dangerous situation, and there are concerns that some of these buildings are not safe. So things have to be done. It's just a shame that it seems to be very short notice. I mean, we had the stories in particular you're referring to. I know. So Shrek closed for a week, or has
Shrek had to close. I mean, it was David's Hall in Cardiff, Orchard Theatre in Dartford, Sands Centre in Carlisle, which I think is where Shrek was going, Core Theatre in Solihull, Forum in Stockport. They're the ones that closed. They've either reopened or are still closed for investigation. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, people like Jimmy Carr had his show cancelled, Shrek on tour. There are other theatres where people are due to appear and they don't know whether they are or not, because obviously it's got to be done. And as you say, because I mean, wasn't there a collapse in a West End theatre a few years back?
It was. So interestingly, and fortunately, there were a good few days, if not weeks, in between. But I do theatre reviews. Well, you've been to a couple with me.
Yeah.
I was reviewing Death of a Salesman, and I'm trying to remember where it was. Was it the? I cannot for the life of me remember which theatre it was off the top of my head. But it was. I was reviewing it, I think, around 2019, I think the run was. And I think either a couple of weeks before or a couple of weeks after, part of the ceiling had collapsed. Now, fortunately, people were fine. I think there were a couple of minor injuries, but there were no sort of serious injuries sustained. But yeah, part of the ceiling collapsed. And yeah, I guess that could have been weather related. I don't know the full story. Sorry, this is a very sort of put together bit. But what I do know is it happened, I think 5 or 6 years before that at the Apollo. Was that? I want to say that was Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time.
Yes, it was, because Verona had an acquaintance in that. We had an acquaintance in the show, and thankfully they were okay. But yes, that was Curious Incident. Yeah, so you're right. There have been
in the last decade or so, there have been a couple of sort of incidents or occurrences where theatres have had to stop mid-performance, or shows have had to be pulled because of damage to the buildings. But I guess it's interesting, isn't it? Because we mentioned a couple of weeks back about badly behaved audience members. Fortunately, are very rare situations, but there has been the odd time where a show has had to be stopped because in mid-show because of bad behavior or fighting or people not doing what they should be as audience members. Those are obviously instantaneous kind of things. You can't pre-plan for those. Those are just something you have to deal with.
Yeah.
The collapse of these ceilings sort of sits halfway in between, because you don't know it's going to happen. So it is an instantaneous reaction. Shit, we got to stop the show because blah, blah, blah. But equally, as we're seeing with what's going on now with some of the theatres closing, it possibly was preventable, depending on the quality of the building, the condition of the building. So it's sort of, again, if I had done my research, I didn't realise we were going to talk about it, so I haven't done the research.
All right.
This is how it works. But yeah, this is live. Well, it's not live, but it was live for us. So that makes sense. So I don't know what caused the collapse, and if it had been like a crazy weather situation, then obviously it's not something you can plan for, other than making sure that buildings are built in case of extreme circumstance. But if it's similar to this whole concrete thing at the moment, perhaps they should have been checked more regularly to avoid these things. And
I wonder how often. Surely I don't know, because it's not part of my job. We see in theatres regular checks done on the safety of the auditorium area, the safety of lighting, stage equipment, everything that's tested. It's like, all electrical equipment that you take on tour ever has to be PAT tested. If it's in a theatre, we all know that stuff gets tested week in, day out, particularly with the big big shows in the West End. And and if you're flying someone or you've got, that all has to be checked day in, day out, rigorously.
Yeah. But
the structure you're in, I suppose one is easy to forget that there's a roof over your head, and that is X number of years old, or X number of years young in this case, and you think, how old is that? 30 years? That's a bit of a worry. If you're in the West End, you go, it's a Victorian building. That's been there years. Nobody needs to worry about that. It's like, seems the younger the building, the more you have to worry. I've got a little thing. Interestingly, this makes me laugh. This is me being silly, but it's like, they've closed all these theatres because there's a danger to the public. The National Theatre went, there's a few patches of this backstage, but we don't need to close that. It's like, hang on a minute, performers are backstage. Yeah. Don't worry about the actors. They're just bloody happy to be there. Yeah, don't have to shut for them. Just, is it above the audience? No. Keep on going, you buggers. Get back here. Keep the show on. Performers, you don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, no.
Don't have to worry about it. It just made me smile to think that, no, don't worry about them.
It is an intriguing one, isn't it? Because people will be aware, well, I assume people are aware, that when we sign contracts for a show or for a film or whatever, there are always clauses in there talking about events of force majeure or unforeseen circumstances or events out of the control of the production company that would result in not necessarily the contract being terminated, but no pay being due to the performer because it's not their fault, essentially. So it's the sort of, it wasn't me.
Acts of God, as they say.
Yeah. So, and I guess in a roundabout way, that's why we're here. I mean, we obviously the unwelcome guest is the reason that we started the podcast. I personally was driving to a show when the first lockdown was brought in, and literally had to turn around mid-journey because the hotel or theatre, I can't remember which I was going to, but they weren't going to be able to put on a public event because Boris had just come out and said no, go home.
I was in the middle of, as you know, I was in the middle of rehearsing a play, and we were going in and going, is it worth us rehearsing today? Is this tour ever going to happen because of the threats of lockdown? And we rehearsed one day, got home, and we all got a telephone call saying, look, we're really sorry, guys, but boom, we're in lockdown. So with the rug was, and as you say, that's why we're here. Unforeseen. So the night I was doing a show in a beautiful village pub, middle of nowhere, at Fawlty Towers, and we got the news come through that the late Queen had passed away, and it's like, okay, what do we do here? We if anybody in the audience knows, they're going to be sitting there, and our audience are going to be sort of, as we go out, oh shit. So we went out, and we made an announcement as gently and as delicate as we could. And we said, this is a very sad time, but, being the woman that she is, she would want life to continue. She would want, and all the audience went, let's have a good time. Let's celebrate her by. So we had a toast at the Queen, 1 minute silence, and boom, we had a very, very good show. Not because of that, but we had a good show after that. But it's, it's like, well, the Queen's dead. It was like, let's, But
no, I completely get what you say, and we talked about it on the episode shortly after she'd passed, how life did have to continue, and sometimes you do want shows to go ahead, sometimes they literally cannot go ahead, and there are lots of things you can and do plan for to an extent. I mean, the Christmas just gone. I think I don't know if I've mentioned on the show, but I experienced the coldest temperature I'd ever experienced in my life. So I'd gone home in between a couple of panto shows. I think we had a day or two off, so I'd gone home, and as I was driving back to the theatre, it was -12, and I'd never seen that before. I've not been abroad a great deal, and certainly not to cold places. So I'd never seen, and I know for some people it's -12, but in Canada they're like, cool, it's summer, get your t-shirt on.
Oh, it's 12, get your t-shirt on, yeah.
But we'd had the discussions and said, look, yes, at the end of the day, it's just cold weather, but there's snowfall, there's ice everywhere. If people don't feel safe travelling and we don't have an audience, do we go ahead? And these are things where you kind of go, we're aware it's going to happen, but it is out of our control. And I guess we're in an industry where it's a bit more difficult to work around those things. Like if and not belittling or saying that we're better or whatever, but if you work in an office or if you work in a supermarket, if you can't go anywhere, you don't go there.
No.
Shop opens, the shop shuts. There's kind of that. Yes, the high-end like food will go out of date, so there's loss there, or people might not be able to get food. But it's slightly incomparable, isn't it, to kind of going, right, well, we're now stuck because we can't just reopen the next day. There's more going on than that. It's a more convoluted situation.
There are a lot of, I mean, I was doing panto in Luton many years ago, and we had a very, very cold winter. It was a lot of snowfall, and I got a telephone call. I was directing the show, playing Dame and directing the show, and my mum lives just outside Luton, so I was staying locally. And I got a telephone call from the stage manager going, "I've rung the producer, and I'm ringing you to let you know that the weight of the snow has caused serious leaks in the roof." Don't know what concrete was on the roof, but it was, and basically it was saying that we can have a look at this. However, there's considerable snow up there. It is still snowing, and we've got water running shall we say, into lights and along electrical, conduits or whatever the technical term is. And she said, she said the theatre management have deemed it unsafe to open a theatre. And I'm going, well, that seems, because at any time, this building could be plunged into darkness. That's the least of our worries. We've then got to get out several hundred people out the building safely, cast, workers, etc., crew. So they said, so I said, well, they said, we can try and get as many communications out as possible, but there will be people turning up. So I said, okay, I'll come to the building. We're close. It was a theatre above a library in Luton. So I was meeting people at the public entrance and saying, hello, my name is Andrew. I'm the director of the show. This is our producer, represent the producer and the theatre manager. We're here to tell you we're really sorry, but blah, blah. And most people were like, thank you so much. We're saying we're sorry. We just couldn't, we tried to leave it as late as possible, but it's just too dangerous for cast and public. Most people went, oh, okay, thank you. We said, your tickets are still good for other performances. There are tickets available at some shows. Rebook whenever you can. We actually stuck a matinee on, an extra matinee to cover anybody that. And most people, we still had a few people interested and complaining, going, "Oh, I've come to see the show. I want to see the show." And I'm sort of standing there going, "It's not safe, sir, madam. Do you want to sit in a theatre that's suddenly going to be plunged into darkness, or you're going to be electrocuted, or your children?" I said, "What? I said, honestly, I had to walk away for a few minutes because it was like, really, you."
Unfortunately, there are inevitably going to be the odd one or two who
extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, so and I've got a slight example, and it's slightly off piste. And somehow we've ended back up in the realm of badly behaved audiences or lack of common sense. Anyway, all those things tuned in together. But I did a theatre show once where a lady unfortunately suffered a stroke. She was quite an elderly lady, and I think she'd felt poorly, and all of a sudden this occurred. So we paused the show. Well, we stopped the show, obviously. An ambulance was called, dealt with, and we resumed the show later, which obviously then went on fairly late into the evening, or certainly more so than we planned, because there was this delay. And the response of the majority of the audience and the staff and the other performers, everyone was brilliant, bar one or two. And I kid you not, we had complaints about the show being delayed. Right now, it's not like these people wouldn't have been aware, because fucking paramedics wandered into the room and took this poor lady out on a stretcher. Right now, what kind of level have you got to be at to go, fucking hell, I mean,
I want my bloody tickets worth.
I expect it to be done by 10:30, and it's 11:15, and I'll just leave her in the corner on the floor. I mean, it does boggle the mind, but again, it is an example of an unavoidable circumstance, something you cannot plan for. You can always have things in place that, in case of something going completely awry, and you can always have these sort of backup plans to an extent, but you can never plan for everything. And I think maybe going forward, not to bring it back to the unwelcome guest, but I think as a species, which sounds very dramatic, but I think we are now better set to perhaps be ready to deal with things like nothing like that had ever really happened before.
It's very true. I think you're right there, Sam. I think after the unwelcome guest and everything that happened, lockdown and blah, I think people have gone, okay, let's be sensible about this. Nothing as big as that, fingers crossed, will ever happen again. I'm talking, the unwelcome guest. Let's keep our fingers crossed. We've done the big one, but I think I think you're right. People go, okay, yeah, it's for my own good, blah. I mean, there was one that wasn't for the audience's good. It was an unforeseen circumstance, a ridiculous moment that I was doing a tour of Heidi High, and we had a week off. And people have a week, 10 days off. And people took their holiday. I mean, it was a long tour. And people went off on holiday. Some people went, a couple of people went into Europe. One of the actors went abroad to, I think it was Sri Lanka.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I know, have a holiday. And then she must have been getting paid far more than I was. But then they had the Icelandic volcano. You remember that huge dust cloud?
Oh gosh, yeah, no.
It prevented flights home.
Of course it did, yes.
So we had a couple of actors stuck in Europe, an actor stuck in Sri Lanka, and we were back to our first night back on tour in Basingstoke.
No, hang on. So you've got an actress out in Sri Lanka, summing it up, had an amazing holiday, very sadly, but also, well, could be worse, stuck out there due to lack of flights, right?
Yeah.
You've got some others touring around Europe and experiencing all the sights and sounds and everything that Europe has to offer.
Yeah.
You are in Basingstoke.
We're in Basingstoke with the Haymarket in Basingstoke with the cast sitting there, and we knew this was going to occur, obviously, because we knew that you know, some of the cast members are stuck.
Yeah.
And we were sort of like, you know, so we were moving, you know, the understudies. We were able to cover everything. It was fine, but it was like, what, because of a volcano in Iceland, we're having to recast the show in Basingstoke, whilst the couple of cast members, bless their hearts, they hired a van and drove across Europe to get back. The actor out in Sri Lanka was, nothing I can do. I'm just going to sit on the beach and wait for the flights to start. Nothing I can do. I mean truly, they couldn't get back. But it was like, okay, you know, you tough it out in Sri Lanka for a couple of days, and we'll go on and make it up in Basingstoke. But I mean, who could have? You can't. You know, you can see why in that contract there is force majeure, acts of God, etc., etc. It's like it's a bloody volcano in Iceland. You know.
Yeah, and there are. I mean, I'm pretty sure forever and a day now we will have mentions of pandemics and things like that in contracts.
Oh gosh, yes.
Well, because I mean, look at the amount of shows that had to close or understudies that had to go on, and then they got to a stage where there weren't enough understudies to cover stuff, and studies are covering all that. It's a weird and wonderful world, the performance world, where lots of things can interfere with it running smoothly. I mean, we are unbelievably resilient. I mean, we've all done shows feeling massively under the weather, or when I did Rock of Ages, I think our leads, or at least one of them, came down with laryngitis. So we ended up moving them. I think we either pulled the preview show or we moved it to a matter of something. But the recovery time and people just getting up and going on. And there's a fantastic story, which lots of people will be aware of. But if you're not, look it up. I think it's on YouTube. There's a video clip about Hugh Jackman, who before they were sort of it was like almost like a research and development, or like you know where I'm going, The Greatest Showman, and he was supposed to be singing in front of all these producers to kind of try and sell the show. But not long before, he's had skin cancers, I believe, and he'd had an operation, and he had loads of stitches in his nose, so he wasn't actually supposed to be able to sing. And just look it up if you haven't.
It's an interesting story,
inspiring.
Yeah.
But he also, just to slightly go off on one, he did a fabulous speech when he was on Broadway, and I can't remember the show, which is really bad. But he did a fabulous speech afterwards because he'd been working opposite the understudy in the other lead, the female lead, because I think this was COVID related as well. And he did a fabulous speech about how we need to value understudies so much better and how important they are, which is absolutely true. And that's a simple example of planning for the unforeseen or the unpredictable, having understudies, having covers.
You've had it happen where you haven't had the right props and bits and pieces arrive for a show. A friend of mine was on a touring show. Can't remember what show it was, but let's say it was, I don't know, let's say it was Shrek. She was on tour with Shrek. She wasn't, but this is an example. And she looked in the back of the truck. The truck arrived. The set was going on stage, no problem. Then all the truck arrived with the props and costumes. And what should have say been the props and costumes for Shrek actually turned out to be the props and costumes for, I don't know, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And they just looked in the back and went, okay, we've got a big cast of this show. Don't know what it was, but that was just an example. But you know, she opened the back of the truck with her crew and just went, that isn't our show.
Wrong one. Wow.
And I mean, they managed to pull it right, but I mean, they were literally, you know, they were pulling costumes out, putting people in costumes, you know, from the back of a truck because they didn't have time to unpack the wardrobe. They were literally, you know, the show was up and they were costuming from the back of a lorry.
I mean, we are nothing if not resilient.
Extraordinarily so.
And we've proved that over the last few years more than we've ever done in the past. But and what a positive way to end, I think.
If anything, Sam, that statement you just made, if anything, that is setting concrete.
Oh,
boom.
You've been looking for a way to get something in like that for this entire show, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
No, it's fine. So that'll do for today, I think.
Absolutely lovely, mate. Yeah.
We are another guest episode. Very much looking forward to that one. I may be with a slightly different background for any YouTube viewers, but we'll see what happens. I might be able to play around. We'll see where I happen to be. But as always, Drew, it's been a massive pleasure, mate. And
a joy, Sam.
Gentlemen, and
take care, mate.
Tuning in. Thank you so very much. And we'll see you next time. Take it easy. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.